So you just do everything in Cubase.
Yeah, I do all all my audio is done in Cubase. Yeah, I do right up to the mastering, mixing.
You do the mastering
there,
yeah.
I'm gonna be honest too. Like, I hate to admit this, but I did pay for a DAW once, way back in the day, N-Track Studio, $60 I paid for it, and I did like it, and I forget why I switched. I think there was one thing I couldn't do that I needed to do, so I switched to Cool Edit 2. The pirated copy that was going around back.
Yeah, I had Cool Edit Pro at one point. Yes, great.
Yeah, right. And so I used that guy, and I was stuck on Cool Edit into college, and I upgraded Adobe Edition just because they bought Cool Edit.
That's
and
right.
I could get a free copy of Adobe Edition, right? So I just decided to go follow them, and I used Adobe until, I don't know, I forget, I was in the band Electric Mountain, and I was working. I hadn't started making Death by Design didn't exist yet, but I was working with my buddy Devin, and he just kept, and he was with Cool Edit with me too up until he switched to Cubase, and he kept saying, "You got to go to Cubase. You got to go to Cubase. You'll love it. You'll love it." And he kept comparing it to Pro Tools, and we had used Pro Tools in college, because we were told Pro Tools was the standard, which is horseshit. Pro Tools is not the industry standard. That's just people that paid for their Macs. They want you to believe that.
Yeah.
I found out in radio, because I was in broadcasting, right? In radio, the industry standard was Cool Edit 2, the same pirated copy I was using. The pirated copy. Yeah. So that was really rewarding, because at home on my home computer I was using what I'd be using in the field, not what I was using at school. And
right.
So we were being told the opposite. So anyway, he was saying, yeah, Cubase is just like Pro Tools. You'll love it. You'll love it. And yeah, so he convinced me to switch, and he gave me the pirated copy, number 5, and I installed it, and same one I was using until recently. And I liked it a lot, but there was all these little problems with it, right? There's these little issues I had here and there that I assumed were a problem because it was a pirated copy, and I wasn't getting updates and blah, blah, blah. Well, come to Cubase 12 Pro, like the newest version, it's got the same problems. They're still happening, right? So either it's a problem with some of my hardware. I mean, the only hardware I'm reusing other than my instruments is my USB interface. Everything else is new. Like, there's nothing. So I don't think my USB interface is causing all these problems. Maybe it is. Maybe it's a Line 6 problem. I don't know. But I'm having additional problems with this version that I wasn't having with the old version, like authorization. Like, once in a blue moon, I'll be in the middle using it, and a screen pops up and says, "This is an unauthorized copy of Cubase. You can't use this." And I have to reset my computer and run an authorization thing with Steinberg to get the thing working again.
That sucks.
Right?
That sucks.
That never once happened with my pirated copy.
No,
never once.
No, for obvious reasons. Yeah, for obvious reasons. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so you're getting accused of piracy more with the legit version than actually having a pirated copy.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to be in a position to pay for a DAW, a good one. A decent one like Cubase. I would like Cubase, I think, because I used to use the very first version of it. When it first sort of came along, and it was incredible. It was just a MIDI thing. Then it didn't have any audio aspects to it, but it changed the way I made music. And I have used various light versions of it down through the years. So I've always liked the kind of layout of it and the way that it works. But I've heard a lot of people say that it's got those kind of problems. Cakewalk doesn't have any of those problems. It has a whole different set of problems. It sometimes does things that I don't know why it's done the thing that it does. Like, sometimes I'll go to double click on a channel title to change the channel title, to call it Guitar 1 or whatever. And between the two clicks, it's decided that I'm wanting to bring that channel up into the middle of the screen, so the second click hits something else. That's fucking annoying. Yeah. There's also the way that it does loops. It does loops. If you highlight the top of the timeline, you can set a loop zone. But sometimes you've got something else set, and you'll hit the set a loop, and it goes into like a non-loop loop, which is just a frame. So it's going all of a sudden. Which it just shouldn't do. It should never do that. They should have it built in. It never does that. because that just wrecks your fucking head. You're in the, it's like, God, I didn't need that. It's so loud. So there's a few wee things like that, but they're just interface things. They're not failure things. It very seldom fails. I had, in that whole last album, I had one failure, and when I loaded it up yesterday, it failed because I downloaded a copy of oh God, what's that sample player? I can't remember. Sample Tank, I think. I downloaded a copy of that. I was trying to get that running. It was fucking terrible. It was useless, so I ended up ditching it. But Sample Tank had changed the pathing for Miroslav Orchestral Studio thing. So the session I was trying to load up required that, and Miroslav was failing and taking Cakewalk with it. So I had to. I figured it out. I rejigged where the library was, and it was happy after that. But yeah, Cakewalk. I'll say this for it. It's very, very stable, and very user friendly once you know how it works. There's a few sort of keyboard commands and things that make it really easy to do things. Editing is very, very sort of intuitive for me now. I know exactly how to edit to the beat and edit to the frame and edit to the sample and all that kind of stuff that I want to do. And like I say, it handles VSTs quite well. It doesn't catalogue the VSTs the way that I would like. It just gives you a bare list, and you don't know where I've got 4 folders for VSTs because various programs suggested various things, and I've sort of adhered to them. A couple of those folders have only got one thing in them, but I'm scared. I'm scared to put them somewhere else in case they stop working. So it doesn't tell you where where the particular VSTs are. It just sort of gives you this list. So if you're trying to track something down to get rid of it, it's a bit of a nightmare. I had the BBC Orchestra. I tried that out. The thing that comes with labs. I think it's a labs thing, and I wanted to get rid of that because I didn't like it very much. And it kept popping up. It just kept coming back. It was like fucking Lazarus. Where is this thing installed? And eventually I found it, but I'm sure I deleted it from at least 2 places. It had sort of inveigled its way into things. I hate it when that happens. I see software as an enemy when it does that. It's like, how dare you take over my PC and demand these things of me? I'm trying to work here.
I have found that some VSTs will install themselves in 4 places.
Yeah, that seems to be what happens. Yeah.
Because I think it's because there's no general rule of thumb as to where DAWs look for VSTs, so to avoid probably complaints from the user, so they don't know what DAW they're using and where the DAW installs, that it just automatically goes to. So it's like, for me, there's a folder called VST in the program files. There's a file under one called common files that has a VST folder in it.
Yeah.
And there's a folder called Steinberg that has VST plugins in it.
I've got all of those.
Yeah.
Plus I've got the Cakewalk one. So I've got an extra one because VST VST wasn't invented by Steinberg, was it? No, they did. They invented the MIDI roll, the piano roll, I think. That was their deal. VST was a sort of an industry-wide thing, I think. But yeah, Steinberg for some reason I don't have any Steinberg stuff, but I still got a bunch of VSTs in the Steinberg folder because that's where VSTs want to be installed, and I'm afraid to mess with it. But what I do is I make sure I'm not installing, whenever I can, I'm not installing the VS2 version as well as the VST3 version, because that way you'll end up with, like you say, multiples.
You were correct, by the way, originally that Steinberg did invent the VST as well.
Did they?
Why it's...
Right, so that's why they've got because they invented ASIO as well. ASIO is their thing, which is probably why the Cubase is sort of very proprietary about that. Because Cakewalk isn't. Cakewalk I can use. Well, I'm saying that. I think I can use. I've never had any problems opening up other editors, but then they might be using the Windows side of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I found that was one thing I liked about Adobe Edition originally, at least the older versions, and Cool Edit, is their flexibility with sound cards was amazing. Like I could and just a couple buttons click, I could be going from using my ASIO driver to using my Windows sound to I could open up a recording track and have the incoming sound being the sound that plays from my computer. Mm-hmm. Right? Where I can't do that with Cubase. Without doing some fuckery, like patching cables or something with my sound card.
Oh, right.
That I can't actually get it to record the sound coming out of the computer. or maybe it does, and
Right,
I've been
know.
for the last 15.
I'm trying to think
the
if
last 15
Cakewalk
years.
would do that. I don't know if Cakewalk would do that. I know that Cakewalk, you can ditch the ASIO driver with Cakewalk and use something else. And I don't know. I don't quite know about that. I've not tried to do that. But yeah, that's a weird one, isn't it? That actually you've got a recorder software that's recording, but it won't actually record what the sounds that the PC is actually making. Yes, I have come across that in the past. It's just a weird one.
Yeah, so the fact I could do that, like I remember that used to be a production tool for me, right? So what I used to do is I still do this, but back then it was much more common where you'd be editing and you'd have too much VST going on and your ASIO's maxed out, your CPU's maxed out, and he starts glitching on you and you're getting robotic noises. So I would sometimes, like I remember I climaxed a song one time by just going all black MIDI on it, not the band, but the genre, right. And pushing my computer until it starts farting, right? So I'm like, okay, that's the sound I want. I want the sound of that computer dying at the end. And then I'd render the song, and it'd render perfectly because it would slow everything down to avoid any sort of glitching, right? So I'd be like, okay, but I want the sound I'm hearing, not the sound that's supposed to be there. I want the sound I'm actually getting. So I would have to do things like record, like I remember one time I just took microphones, just mic'd both the studio monitors,
right,
and use that sound, right? Because I was just like too fed up with trying to figure out a way to work it around.
Oh yeah, just do it the easy way and forget about the. You can sacrifice a bit of quality, you can sacrifice a bit of fidelity for an effect like that. Yeah, it's definitely.
Of course.
Just do it the quick way. Whichever I do that a lot now. It's just whichever's quickest. We'll do it that way.
Did you ever listen to Rattle That Lock by David Gilmour? His most recent solo album.
I did, but I have no memory of it. And please don't refresh my memory because I've probably expunged it for a reason.
No, I was just gonna say there's one song. It might be even the title track, Rattle That Lock, or whatever the song was, but where it's got this like. Dave
Gilmour. I'm still obsessed by Roger Waters. Dave Gilmour's okay. You can talk about Dave Gilmour. That's fine, but just don't mention Roger Waters to me. That's fine. No, I get them. That's another senior moment. How could I confuse those two guys? They're completely different. Yeah, but yes, I have heard that. I have heard bits of that, but it didn't make a great impression on me. But anyway, go on.
Yeah, well, there's one of the lead titles or one of the lead singles of the album involves the sound of the subway in France, like the noise it makes when the train arrives to a stop or when it's getting ready to close the doors or whatever. And I guess Dave found it surprisingly musical compared to like the way the subway sounds in England or wherever he hears the subway normally. The TTC has a nice one here in Toronto, not here, over in Toronto, to the side of the country there. It's got a nice sound too. But so he recorded it on his iPhone. And that's what you hear on the album.
Yeah.
Is the iPhone recording of him recording the sound and just standing in the subway with his wife. And then later on, or maybe it's even the same song, there's a guitar passage, like a chord progression, from the chorus that was the original idea for the song. And when he got the rhythm about it and the feel to it, he pulled his phone out to remember it. And when he was in the studio, I guess he could never, for the life of him, he couldn't replicate the original thing he did with his phone. So the recording on the phone is what's on the album too.
Yeah.
And you would never know unless someone told you like that this Dave Gilmour, this fucking $1 billion, well, not billion, but you know how much money fucking these kind of guys spend on a record, would utilize iPhone field recordings of actual instruments in their album and then the final product. Like that's fucking mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of nonsense talked about what you need to record. I mean, we've talked about this before, as long as the music is speaking in some way, the fidelity and the accuracy and all that kind of stuff really goes out the window for a lot of people. A lot of people love music that I can't listen to because it's badly recorded as far as I'm concerned, but they love it. They love it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't. That's something that concerns us. That we are concerned with putting across an idea in the most effective way possible. So like you were saying before about listening to your mixes on all the different speakers and all that kind of stuff and trying to figure out if it works and all these kind of things. These are all things that we enjoy doing because we're a bit that way minded. But ordinary, if I put in inverted commas, ordinary people, whatever an ordinary person is, they don't give a fuck. They don't care. They can't hear it. They just can't hear it. All they know is it either works for them or it doesn't, and they don't know enough. Most people don't know enough to tell you, unless they've hung out with you for a long time and you've given them instructions on how to criticize your music, as I've done with at least one of my friends who blew up at me one time because I can't remember which album it was, not this one but the one before, and he was reluctant to give me feedback. He was okay. And I said, look, I need more than that from you. I need you to tell me something more. And he says, my brain doesn't work the way yours works. I don't know those things. And I went, well, of course you don't. That's me that thinks that way, not you. So I've been a bit more careful in asking that guy for feedback. I ask him very specific questions now. Like, I think I sent him the one I sent you, I sent to him as well. And I said, are the vocals too loud? So it was very specific. Are the vocals too loud? Because I thought they might be. And he came back and said, no, they're fine. I went, okay then. So if I ask him specific questions, he's good. But yeah, it's funny is the way different people's minds work about the same thing. It's what you were saying about history, you know. We all think different things in the moment. So how do we judge bigger things, you know? It's all strange.
Yes, it makes me shiver.